In this section, we're going to discuss the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. We'll examine ADA regulations that affect transportation and the procedures you must follow to provide the best customer experience. The ADA became law in 1990 and is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities and guarantees that they'll have the same opportunities as everyone else to participate in the mainstream of American life. ADA regulations have a major impact on transit providers. Here's a quote from ADA regulations. No entity shall discriminate against an individual with a disability in connection with the provision of transportation service. That means that people with disabilities must have full access to the same transportation services as those without disabilities. ADA regulations are enforced by the Department of Justice, and the Department of Transportation is responsible for ensuring compliance in the transportation industry. As a transit provider, we are subject to audit for compliance with the ADA by the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, or the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or the FMCSA, which is subject to the service provider at your location. The ADA has had a major impact on access to public transportation. According to the American Public Transportation Association, in 1993, less than 50% of the public transportation fleet was accessible to people with disabilities. Now public transit is nearly 100% accessible. Imagine the freedom that provides people with disabilities who didn't have access to public transportation before. Let's take a closer look at the ADA regulations, starting with the rules on discrimination in transportation. Here's what we mean by discrimination. Whatever rules apply to a person without a disability also have to apply to a person with a disability. If you apply special or different rules, that's considered discrimination. Here are some examples of discrimination in public transportation.
Denying transportation to people with disabilities. Denying transportation for the safety of a customer with a disability is not a valid reason. Not giving people with disabilities the same reservation opportunities as other customers. Imposing special charges for persons with disabilities. Requesting people with disabilities to reschedule trips in a different way than others.
ADA regulations are very clear. Transportation companies must provide the same services to people with disabilities that they do for all other customers. Here are some examples of ADA requirements in the area of transportation.
Transportation agencies must provide accessible vehicles, trained personnel, and information in an accessible format that all customers can use. An individual with a disability must be able to board and ride a public vehicle, train, car, or van. Lifts, ramps, and securement devices must be operational and capable of handling mobile devices as required by the ADA and company policy. Lifts and ramps must be cycled at pre-trip vehicle inspections to assure they work correctly. Individuals with disabilities who don't use wheelchairs, including standees, are permitted to use the lift or ramp to enter the vehicle. Vehicle operators are required to assist persons with disabilities with the use of ramps, lifts, and securement systems. Vehicle operators must treat individuals with disabilities in a respectful and courteous way. A paratransit customer with an eligible disability can be accompanied by a personal care attendant, or PCA, but the PCA ride must be scheduled with the customer's ride. A vehicle operator cannot refuse service to a customer who uses a portable oxygen device. Transportation providers must allow service animals accompanying persons with disabilities to board vehicles and enter facilities such as transit centers. Individuals with disabilities must be given adequate time to complete boarding or disembarking from the vehicle.
As you can see, there are quite a few ADA transportation regulations you must be familiar with, including how the ADA defines an individual with a disability. Let's review the definition.
The person has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. The person has a record of such an impairment and is regarded as having an impairment. Most importantly, you should never ask a person if they have a disability or what their disability is.
In March 2015, the DOT and FTA passed an amendment that's called Reasonable Modification Request. If a reasonable modification request has been made, it would have been submitted to the agency and included in the rider's profile. What you need to know with this is that it's simply a modification request so that the customer can use the service as effectively as anyone else. Make sure to reference your rider's guide for additional information. Remember, some of the customers you serve will have disabilities that require special attention. They may need extra time and assistance boarding or exiting your vehicle. In addition, some of your customers will have just completed rigorous medical treatment before boarding. Be patient with them. Remember, you are expected to maintain a high level of professionalism at all times and follow all ADA transportation rules. ADA regulations provide all customers an equal opportunity to have freedom of movement on public transit. It's our goal to ensure all our customers have that opportunity on every ride. Now that we've examined what the ADA is and covered regulations that apply to public transit, let's examine some specific aspects of those regulations. We'll discuss the mobility devices and aids that customers with disabilities often use to help them get where they need to go. We'll also cover the rules about service as well as personal care attendants, or PCAs. Then we'll review your role and responsibilities in assuring that the ADA requirements are met. People with disabilities often use mobility devices or aids to help them get where they need to go. These mobility aids include a wide range of devices: wheelchairs, scooters, crutches, canes, walkers, and Segways.
The Department of Transportation defines a wheelchair as a mobility aid belonging to any class of 3 or more wheeled devices, usable indoors, designed or modified for and used by individuals with mobility impairments, whether operated manually or powered. This definition includes 3-wheeled scooters.
In 2011, weight and size definitions for wheelchairs and user combinations were eliminated from DOT's ADA regulations. ADA regulations state that customers with disabilities who use manual or powered wheelchairs, scooters, Segways, as well as mobility aids such as walkers, crutches, and canes, must be allowed into all areas where members of the public are allowed to go. The DOT defines a service animal as any guide dog, signal dog, or other animal individually trained to work or perform tasks for an individual with a disability. Here are some examples of service animal tasks:
guiding individuals with impaired vision, alerting individuals with impaired hearing to sounds or intruders, pulling a wheelchair, retrieving dropped items, providing minimal protection or rescue work, providing balance and stability support for their owner, assisting their owner during a seizure, alerting their owner to the presence of allergens, preventing or interrupting impulsive or destructive behaviors.
ADA regulations state that service animals are allowed to accompany customers with disabilities on transit vehicles. Here are some things to know about service animals that apply when they're riding on your vehicle.
In addition to dogs, other animals can be utilized as service animals. You may ask in this order. First, is the animal a pet? And second, is it a service animal? You cannot require documentation that the animal has been certified, trained, or licensed as a service animal. In addition, you cannot ask the customer for information about their disability. The care and supervision of a service animal is solely the responsibility of its owner. However, the service animal must be under control of the owner, either on a leash or by voice control. Some, but not all, service animals wear vests, special collars, and/or harnesses. However, ADA regulations don't require service animals to wear a vest, ID tag, or specific harness.
People with disabilities have the right to train their service animal themselves, and aren't required to use a professional service animal training program. They're also not required to provide any documentation showing the animal is certified, trained, or licensed. You may refuse to board a service animal only if the animal's behavior poses a direct threat to the health or safety of others, and after contacting dispatch for approval. Every situation must be considered on an individual basis, and you should contact dispatch if you need any assistance. Although you may exclude or refuse to board any service animal that's out of control, you must give the individual with the disability that uses the service animal the ability to continue to use the transit system, so this must be worked out with dispatch.
You can't deny service to a person accompanied by a service animal on the basis of another customer's allergies to the animal. Remember, every situation must be considered on an individual basis. More than one service animal may accompany a customer on a single trip.
Different service animals may provide different assistance to a customer during a trip or at their destination. A personal care attendant, or PCA, is someone designated or employed to assist an eligible person with a disability. The PCA is always allowed to accompany and ride with the eligible person. This is typically noted when a trip reservation is made to ensure there will be space for the PCA. As a professional operator, you're expected to be knowledgeable in ADA regulations while assisting persons with disabilities in your vehicle. At appropriate intervals, refresher training will be provided to help you maintain your proficiency and stay up to date on the latest information about the ADA.
Be familiar with U.S. DOT regulations regarding accessible service. Properly operating and maintaining accessibility features and equipment. Provide boarding and alighting assistance. Securement of mobility devices and aids. Handling and storing mobility devices and aids. Interacting with customers who have disabilities appropriately and with sensitivity. Treat individuals with disabilities in a respectful and courteous way. Always ask customers with disabilities, "Can I assist you?" If they say yes, ask them, "How can I assist you?"
A thorough pre-trip inspection will help to ensure that all needed equipment is intact and lighting and signage is working. Service must be provided to all customers with disabilities. But if the customer engages in violent, seriously disruptive, or illegal conduct, service can be refused, conditioned, or suspended. Please note that behavior that offends, annoys, or inconveniences other customers is not classified as seriously disruptive. When in doubt, contact dispatch.
Keep in mind, under the DOT hazardous materials rules, a customer may bring a portable medical oxygen supply on board a vehicle. The commonly used portable oxygen concentrators are not considered hazardous materials and do not require the same level of special handling as compressed oxygen cylinders. You are responsible for the safe handling and securing of your customer's oxygen supply.
There's no doubt that North Americans are living longer. People aged 65 and older made up 13% of the total population in 2010. And by 2050, 1 in 5 people will be over 65 years old. According to the CDC, 22% of adults in the United States alone have some type of disability. And with an increasingly aging population, the growth in the number of people with need to assistance will increase as well. Your role in the community is significant because your customers not only include existing and potential riders, they also include family members of your riders who also depend on you to safely transport their loved ones. Our commitment to customer service extends to all of our customers. That commitment is especially important to customers with disabilities, the people most likely to want and need your assistance. In this lesson, we're going to cover assisting customers with disabilities and ADA sensitivity for customer service. As a professional operator, you have a lot of responsibilities that go beyond safely driving your vehicle. One of the most important responsibilities is the care and service you provide to your customers. To a person who is using a mobility device or aid, a trained and empathetic driver can make a huge difference in their quality of life. It may be a little harder for people with disabilities and seniors to take advantage of public transportation, and they may need a little help from you when it comes to safely and comfortably riding in your vehicle. A key part of your success as a professional operator will be using effective communication. This will help reduce confusion and ensure the best customer experience. Effective communications will enable you to do two things. One, obtain information that allows you to safely assist the customer without violating their independence. Instead of assuming, ask what's the best way you can help them. Let your customer tell you their limitations and feel free to ask for specific help. For example, some people depend on their arms for balance. Grabbing them to help assist them could knock them off balance. You should only assist your customers in ways they ask for or expect. And second, it helps develop a trust factor between you and your customer. Being able to communicate about expectations and the assistance that's needed shows you care and can be trusted with their well-being and safety while riding in your vehicle. It shows them that you want to make sure you deliver the best possible customer experience. Communication is even more important when providing service to customers with a disability. If every action is communicated and approved by the customer, the possibility of misinterpretation will be limited. Communicating with customers also allows you to gather information, such as, is it the customer's first time using the service? If it is, this knowledge will allow you to better serve them, including telling them about the process and procedures, and make them feel comfortable using the service. As a general rule of thumb, when talking with your customers, be sure to always keep your conversations professional. You are the professional, and your communication style must reflect that. Here are a few things you should always do when communicating.
Greet customers and let them know where you're going. Be willing to repeat information and break information down into smaller pieces. Always speak directly to the customer, not their companion. And speak clearly with a normal tone and speed, unless the customer requests otherwise.
As we reviewed earlier, it's never appropriate to ask what impairment or disability a person has. That's a private question. If the person talks about their disability, you can engage with them politely, but without prying. Never make assumptions about a person's disability. Just because an individual has one disability, it doesn't mean they have another. For example, if a person has a speech impairment, it doesn't mean he or she also has an intellectual impairment. If you find that communicating your message is challenging, here are a few tips to ensure you deliver the best customer experience.
Continue to create a welcoming environment. Treat adults as adults. Do not talk down to an individual or act like they're incapable. Use simple words and short sentences. Repeat information if needed. Illustrate or demonstrate visually what you are asking. If you don't understand, don't pretend to understand. Ask your question in another way. Do not use sarcasm or exaggeration. And simply be patient.
A person who has a disability is still a person just like anyone else. In fact, all of our customers are people, first and foremost. When you say disabled person, you're focused on the disability first. But when you say person with a disability, you're now focused on the person first. When you think about a disability, we think about someone that's not able to do something. That's just not true. Keep in mind, when you look at the word disabled and take away the D on both ends, you're left with is able. Just because a person has a disability does not mean he or she is unable to do many things. We must remember that they are people first and to emphasize the person, not the disability. Thanks for taking the time to learn how to communicate and treat people with disabilities. Your patience and kindness will open the doors of opportunity for them in more ways than you can imagine. When communicating with a customer with a disability, don't assume anything and never hesitate to ask a person's preferences. Always ask, "How may I assist you?" or "How can I guide you?" Let the customer decide what kind of assistance they would like.
Start by introducing yourself. Ask, "How may I assist you?" or "How can I guide you?" Then pay attention to what the customer says and act on what they want. And be willing to take no for an answer if they don't want assistance.
A customer should never have to ask for assistance because you, as the professional operator, should always ask first. Keep in mind, they may not ask for help because of pride or they simply want to be as independent as possible. If they have to ask for assistance, which they're probably not going to do, then the chances they will hurt themselves are greatly increased. So as the professional operator, you should always ask, "How may I assist you?" or "How can I guide you?" Think about it. In the past 6 months, have you stumbled? For someone with mobility disability, their chances of stumbling are much greater. If you're right there, paying attention, you can help. But if you're sitting in your driver's seat, uninvolved, you won't be able to help, especially if they need it. You should always ask first and be prepared to help, assist, or guide the customer. If they don't want assistance, respect their wishes, but still watch them closely so that they don't end up hurting themselves. While assisting customers, keep in mind that a wheelchair is considered an extension of a person's body. So before you take charge, ask the customer what assistance is needed. Just as it isn't polite to grab someone's arm without asking, the same can be true with a person in a wheelchair.
Always request permission to touch their mobility device or aid prior to doing so. And don't ever lean on their mobility device or aid.
Let's review the importance of requesting permission first and the role you play in that.
Don't touch a person's mobility device without permission. Without their being ready, you could cause an injury, knock them off balance, pinch a finger, or roll over their foot or bag. Never start to push a wheelchair without first asking the occupant if you may do so. Tell the customer what you're going to do before doing it. For example, tell the customer you are going to secure the posy belt on them, then ask them to lift their arms. "I'm going to secure the posy belt for your safety. Can you please lift your arms?" Please note that under the ADA, customers have the right to refuse the posy belt. If they refuse the posy belt, notify dispatch and turn on your drive cam to document the refusal.
While boarding and alighting customers with disabilities, make sure to provide extra time so they don't feel rushed and you avoid an accident. For some people, it's going to take longer to get settled into their seats. And be sure to announce stops well in advance so your customers have enough time to prepare for the exit. It's okay to let dispatch know that you're needing some more time to accommodate a customer with disabilities, rather than trying to rush that person. Keep in mind that you can always manually trigger the drive cam to document if needed. The drive cam will record 10 seconds before trigger and 10 seconds following, so that the sooner it's manually activated, the better. There are no established procedures for how to assist every person with a disability, so don't assume you know better. Instead, ask if you can assist. Ask how, and then do it. And remember, don't make it complicated. Most of what you can do is very simple. The following examples cover only some of the specific disabilities. Refer to your rider's guide as a reminder of what you should know in greater detail. Here are some tips for helping customers that are hearing impaired.
Be patient. Give them time to make sense of what you said, because they may not hear every word. Given a little extra time, they can put together the words they heard in order to understand all of what you're communicating. Establish eye contact and face customers when speaking to them so they can see what you're saying. Do not raise your voice. Doing so distorts your lip movement and makes lip reading difficult. Switch to visual note-taking if necessary. Be sure to notify the customer of schedule changes or audible announcements. Talk directly to the customer not the aid or support person.
While serving customers who are blind or who have a visual impairment, do the following.
Pull up to the curb and let them know you are there, since they may not be able to read your bus number or know you're the correct bus to flag down. Introduce yourself. Ask, "How can I assist you?" or "How can I guide you?" Be aware that they may need help to find the door and to get on the bus. Offer your arm or elbow to assist, only if requested. Respond verbally when the customer gives you information so that they will know that you have heard them. Remember to announce the customer's stop. If handling a monetary transaction, count the customer's change out loud.
When serving customers who use service animals, keep these things in mind.
Service animals are individually trained and allowed by law to ride. If you are not sure that the animal is a service animal, you may ask if it is a pet or a service animal. Remember that certification or identification is not required for the animal, and service may not be refused because there is no such identification. The service animal must stay with the owner and be kept under control at all times. Do not take responsibility for the service animal except in emergencies. Never touch or talk to the service animal. It is working.
Remember to do these things when serving customers with a speech impairment.
Speak normally, clearly, and directly. Make eye contact. Concentrate on what's being said. Be patient. Don't interrupt and don't finish your customer's sentences. Don't try to guess what your customer is saying. If you don't understand, don't pretend. Just ask again. If you're not certain what was said, just repeat or rephrase what you've heard. Ask yes or no questions if possible. Be prepared to use pen and paper if needed. And showing patience, respect, and a willingness to find a way to communicate are your best tools.
It's important to also be aware of hidden disabilities, those that are not always obvious to the onlooker, but are very real and can significantly impair normal activities for your customers. On good days, everything seems to be fine, but other days, hidden disabilities can be debilitating. They can include multiple sclerosis, diabetes, partial or complete deafness, renal failure, sleep disorders, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and mental illness like depression or bipolar disorder. Remember, the ADA requires the delivery of good customer service to individuals with disabilities and says that each transit provider shall ensure that personnel are trained to proficiency as appropriate to their duties so that they operate vehicles and equipment safely and properly assist and treat individuals with disabilities who use the service in a courteous and respectful way, with appropriate attention to the difference among individuals with disabilities. As a professional operator, you're expected to provide good customer service every day to everyone. This includes customers with disabilities who may need your extra attention and care. Let's recap what we've learned about good customer service when it comes to ADA sensitivity.
Be patient. Establish eye contact. Approach the customer with a smile. Treat customers with disabilities with courtesy and respect. Use person-first language. They are customers just like anybody else. Give customers with disabilities the same information and choices that you give other customers. Never make assumptions about your customer's physical or intellectual abilities. Never hesitate to ask a person's preference. Ask customers if they need assistance. Do not assume. If they say yes, ask how you may assist them. Take no for an answer if they do not want assistance. Do not touch customers or their mobility devices without their permission. Communicate your intentions and explain the process out loud. Tell the customer what you're going to do before doing it. If you are asked to repeat or write what you said, do so calmly and pleasantly. If you don't understand what the customer is saying, just ask them to repeat it. Again, calmly and pleasantly. Be patient and allow customers to take their time. Respond in a calm, professional manner.
By providing service that welcomes people with disabilities, you can offer better service to everyone. Treating all your customers with individual respect and courtesy is at the heart of excellent customer service. Hello again. As professional operators, you're expected to treat customers with respect and deliver the best customer experience. You must act with integrity and sincerity, operating in a safe, professional manner. Customer service delivery to our customers includes many things. In this lesson, we're going to focus on two key components that you need to remember. Acting with empathy, yet keeping conversations and relationships professional. It's never acceptable to help a customer beyond the front door to their home for any reason, even if they ask. Some examples of prohibited conduct with customers include, but are not limited to, the following.
Sexual advances, request for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Threats, abuse, coercion, or intimidation of any nature. Touching, staring, offensive jokes, seductive pictures or messages, unwelcome advances. Use of profane, abusive, or insulting language. Accepting or offering any gifts, invitations, or favors of any kind. Discussing your personal life or the customer's personal life. Dating or meeting a customer for personal reasons on or off duty. Exchanging personal information such as phone numbers or emails.
Here are some other interactions with customers that are prohibited and what you should do if they emerge.
You should never give your contact information to a customer, nor accept contact information from a customer. You should never engage in personal activities with customers. If a customer insists on getting you personally involved with them, contact dispatch and let them know of the situation. In the event that you ever encounter an issue that could possibly put you or the company at risk, contact dispatch immediately and activate the drive cam if needed.
Please keep in mind how serious the negative results could be if you're accused of assaulting a customer. You could face consequences up to and including immediate termination of employment, personal lawsuits filed against you, prison, and criminal penalties. As much as you may want to build friendships with your customers, it is absolutely essential that you keep all relationships professional and never personal. Circumstances could change in a moment, and the consequences could last a lifetime. It's not worth the risk, so always keep your relationship with customers positive and professional.